Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast. We've just had two incredible series of this Sengoku facing off against DFM. 1-1 at the moment. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, go by Mars1 on the internet. Of course, I am joined by the insatiable, the amazing, the two, honestly, nicest casters around on the internet. Initialize and Nymera, the Have Good Brothers. As I say always, introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
I'm actually very toxic. That's completely.
He is.
Only 2016.
Hashtag 2016 Nymera.
Oh, no.
He was a different man. A different man.
Then I kind of cleansed myself in 2017 when I played like Protobelt. Anyway, it's just whatever.
You reformed like Tyler.
Yeah. And just like we've had this best of 5, which has now reformed itself into a weird best of 3, actually, because we've had game go 1 apiece.
Yeah.
We're actually now at a point where the slate's kind of clean again. We have some information from the first 2 games, and we'll see how that affects drafts going to the next couple. I think the Morgana ban was really good from DFM in the last game.
Agreed.
I wonder if there's a Pantheon ban now as well, unless they've got another level 1 prepared. Either way, we're going to have to see if Sengoku can kind of step it up again and try and see if they can bring it to DFM without that shock game 1.
For sure, I completely agree. I think there's also an element of maybe the Lee Sin would have been a better pick for some of that earlier aggression. You never know. But then it's also, how often does Apperman get put in the dumpster that regularly?
That badly.
And it's a question you kind of ask if it's a normal top laner. But the thing is, Ebby has done this time and time again in this league, this split. So maybe a little bit more commonly than you want to think about.
Yeah, this being a split of a lot of 2 different sides, these champion pools are starting to flex out, and we're going to be seeing some really interesting picks, I imagine, as this series does unfold. What's been the biggest surprise for both of you?
That Pyrion and Yutori Miyashi have performed so well consistently throughout both games. Pyrion has been a point of pressure, as has Yutori Miyashi. We saw it obviously in game 1. I was talking about this in like the end of game 2 as well.
True.
Night and day performance of Blank versus Steel, really. They really are just giving it to each other. And Apperman in the second game kind of fell apart a little. But the mid lane and bot lane for Sengoku are really standing up well. DFM as a team performed very well in game 2 though.
Yeah, and the Yutori Miyashi and Pyrion were definitely still trying to stay relevant. It was just frustrations with item timings, a lot, particularly for Pyrion. He was like, I need this death cap for this fight. I've got 2 Nidisi large rods and a blasting wand. I don't have that item complete. So frustrating. DFM wiped the fight. It's like, oh, it's so annoying. But, credit to them for staying alive big time and trying to remain at least a threat. But there was also credit to DFM for not really allowing them to do all that much. They were struggling to find their ways into fights outside of 1 or 2 pretty good scatter the weeks. But I think Seros, Ebby, Steel just going balls to the wall, jumping at people, did a lot of work for DFM.
Really did do a lot of work. That's why we're at 1-1 with that clean slate, as Nymera said. It's gonna be interesting. Now, we are a blast from the past, and as such, I have to count us in, as our game is already in that pick and ban phase. So let me count us in 3, 2, 1. Good luck to both the teams.
So, back onto Champion Select for Game 3. See Seros in the middle of your screen right there. DFM this time really not hiding who they're targeting. Of course, they first banned the LeBlanc in both the other games as well. The Zoe was banned in Game 2. It's going to be banned again in Game 3, whereas Set is also going to be taken away from Ebby by the side of Sengoku for the 3rd time. I think Ebby has been one of, well, definitely the region's best set. I'd say
Yes.
he
one of the better sets in the world.
One of the better sets in the world, actually, with what he's managed to pull off in that champion. And okay, so it is the Pantheon ban. I think that
makes a lot of sense.
I think you have to have a very solid early game plan to deal with him, and then not knowing whether you're going to pick up the Morgana early, amongst other things, ends up making things a little bit difficult. So, is this going to be the last Heimerdinger ban again, or are they going to let the Aphelios through? What is their plan?
And the Elise ban. So they've gone double junglers against Steel. They don't want those champions that can tower dive at level 3 with Ebby, with Utapon and Gang. Just want them off the board, and Ebby still just first picks that Renekton.
Okay, so Ebby had a monster performance on that in the last game, put Apperman into the dumpster. As we were saying, he was dove so many times, had a Flame Horizon against him. The Ornn is unbanned and available for Sengoku in Game 1. Seros played it. They lost, but it wasn't something which he was particularly taken apart in lane on.
And he was doing some good Call of the Forge guards.
Yeah,
It was when DFM were finding some glimpses of hope in that game. It was off and off the back of decent Call of the Forge guards. But it is locked in. Of course, is a flex between Apperman and Pyrion. Apperman's largely be the one it's gone towards thus far.
I'd agree. I think that Pyrion, regardless though, has had a good series so far. The first two games being pretty crazy. Aphelios is still open. We've seen Yutori actually have 2 games of Varus, and it will be his first game of Aphelios in
So
this
good on
series.
this champion.
Yeah, and Utapon will have to pick something else now. I've talked a little bit about how Kai'Sa is kind of coming back into the meta. That might be something. He could pick up the Varus himself, another kind of big player of that champion. Olaf was banned in game 1 by DFM. They wanted to take that away from Blank. Steel is now hovering it. He went towards that quite a lot in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and he's looked pretty good on that champion, though. I think DFM might hover the Syndra, having taken away 2 from Pyrion.
Right, okay.
They're going to force him onto a 4th pick, I think. And that makes a lot of sense. I think Pyrion loves these champions, which can, these mages, which have a lot of lane control and can run with a teleport if they want. I think this is a solid pickup for Seros.
And this is why in game 2, we saw that Sengoku pick the Syndra in the position that actually Blank picked the Aphelios in this game, right? Because DFM, if they are going to pick a Syndra, they like picking it and then banning away a couple of champions in the second ban phase. So Sengoku might be forced to lock in their mid laner right here, right now in the 3rd pick. Trundle locked in. There's already an Ornn to steal stats away from that kind of anti-tank shred and then buffing yourself up to be that very good frontliner. Steel had a lot of games on this last split, actually. He played it a lot of the way through playoffs, and he's bringing it out once again now.
Thinking about going towards their Thresh, our Sengoku Gaming Aphelios Thresh is one of those stronger lanes, and it is locked in.
So, mid lane not picked for Sengoku, where it's locked in for DFM. Probably going to see a couple of bans towards that. Sengoku might want to remove some AD carries away from Utapon. There are a couple of things available, like we talked about. The Varus is one of them, the Ezreal, the Kai'Sa. There are a couple that you might want to take away. The question is if they really want to hit that pool as opposed to the support champion pool as well.
Yeah, now there's the Varus ban. You called it. There it is.
Yeah, I think Varus is just too good.
DFM, though, probably got to think about mid laners still. Try and get Pyrion, rather.
There are junglers
It's in difficult positions. Yeah, could well go towards Blank as well. They have got to take that Trundle. What's good into Trundle? Something like a Sejuani that Blank's gone to before is of course, it's a tricky matchup into the Trundle, but Blank has defaulted to that in the past. I could see that. Rek'Sai makes a lot of sense here, as does a Jarvan, I imagine.
Jarvan is the game. Well, he's played that 2 games of that and looked, even in the second game, he found some good plays on that champion even went behind. There's also stuff like the Lee Sin still available, which he has played before quite a lot. There's the Gragas as well if he wants to go to something like that. I don't know whether he's really been using that a lot into the Trundle. I don't know what he thinks of that kind of matchup, but it is still available nonetheless. So Kalista taken away from Utapon.
Yeah, and that's one of those lanes that can be really aggressive early, and if you match it up with the right supports, can do some dumb stuff.
Can do. I don't necessarily think Utapon is the biggest Kalista player. Actually, I don't think either of these 2 players are,
and
are
there's
the
the
biggest.
Ban, by the way. You
Okay,
called it out.
right. That was kind of more of a... I wasn't sure if that was the highest priority thing, but it is a big team fighting pick, and these teams...
AP as well.
It's AP as well, although they already have the Ornn, which does go a bit more towards that magic damage. Of course, the Ornn could be going towards the mid lane, as we were saying, meaning that normally the top laners you pick are going to be more towards that AD side of things.
Oh, now this
Cast
would
jungle.
be a champion, and it is locked in. That's likely a Nocturne
okay, all right,
jungle, or it could even be a Nocturne mid lane.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
good.
a flex, as we all know over here in the LJL.
Yeah, we committed the cardinal sin of talking about something before it was locked in, so
It
we have
was
to
a
talk about
second
Nocturne
before
now.
it. I think that's fair, and it would have been an okay pick.
I mean, sometimes that's how it works. Nocturne indeed locked in. Sangoku beat DFM in their second regular season
go on.
game.
I think they're thinking about
on
flexing this Syndra.
Syndra into the bot lane. We didn't talk about it beforehand. The Ziggs is picked up. This is actually a double flex.
Could be a bot laner for the Ziggs.
It's also something to be noted that I believe that when DFM lost to Sengoku against the Nocturne mid, it was Nocturne into Ziggs that time as well. Nocturne is this kind of assassin diving pick, which can get on top of the Ziggs and hold him accountable. This time going to be taking the exhaust, though, looks like.
Thinking about picking a Tahm Kench for a little bit more safety as well.
that's good, yeah.
If the Nocturne comes diving in and it's devoured by a catfish, it's significantly harder to kill them, it turns out. So could well be picked up. And the Karthus is still locked in.
Right, okay.
So it will be Nocturne, Karthus, the double massive ticket R buttons. Requiem and a Paranoia sounds like some pretty dangerous
It
stuff.
does. And so basically, if Gang isn't there, then there's a good chance that a person is going to die. So very, very different style of draft here. And one thing that we set up going in today is, well, who's going to tip their hand? Who's going to show more? This is a little bit of the old with the Nocturne mid for Sengoku, because they have played it the one time themselves. They're re-bringing it back out themselves, and bringing out the Karthus as well. I'm trying to remember if Blank has had any games on that this split. Either way, it is a heavy farming jungler, not something which Trundle tends to do himself. Trundle will be trying to take over some of this early game, but I'm not sure he'll have the best setup in the world to do this. He's definitely not going to have a lot of options in the bot lane against the Aphelios and the Thresh.
Yes. On the other hand, though, if DFM can set up a siege, Syndra and Ziggs is so much poke. And if they can get to those towers, Ziggs will delete them with the satchel charges. It's such a good demolitionist.
Yeah, but the problem is that Nocturne can just kind of walk up to the wave, use his Umbral Blades passive, use the Duskburner as well in the queue. He does have a lot of early wave clear. Ziggs needs higher levels in his queue to start contesting that, whereas Nocturne will just keep auto-attacking the wave, keep healing himself up on that, and eventually be able to start threatening the Ziggs through the wave as well if he positions wrong.
All right, so we're going to have to keep an eye. Seros on Ziggs has done pretty amazing things, honestly. He's, even against when he's lost on them, he's put out mad damage numbers and looked pretty good in the lane. And I can see the idea here, because it's all well and good having the engage buttons, and by all things holy, do Sengoku have engage buttons between an Ornn, a Karthus, and a Nocturne.
Yeah.
There is a lot of poke that could throw things out for DFM if they want to find those.
There are, but once again, as a kind of compared to game one as well, I think there's a point where the damage runs out from DFM. They have a Ziggs and they have the Syndra for sure, but that's both AP. And then you then have to deal with a Tahm Kench and a Trundle, which aren't going to do much damage from the jungle and support roles. The Renekton can do. We saw that in the last game when he gets a significant advantage. Whereas on the other side, actually, I feel like Ornn will be putting a lot of damage onto the first couple of kills when you're coming through with the Nocturne and the Karthus and all this other stuff. And then, of course, you've got Aphelios as well, which scales very, very strong. Syndra and Aphelios both do a lot of damage in team fights. I do feel like in an even game, Sengoku will have more damage to play with, though.
But who, outside of the Ornn, which I grant you is exceptionally tanky, is there really a true tank on the other side that would actually tank up that AP damage particularly well?
I think you can go Hex Drinker and you take AP runes on the Nocturne, and then of course Thresh can get relatively tanky himself. The question is, who do you need to remove from Sengoku for the fight to be over? I think that if you take off the Aphelios, then Sengoku are kind of not feeling so good about things. But
Level 1s again.
Karthus, if he gets ahead in a game and starts to scale, very, very dangerous.
All right, so there's 4 people here. Here comes the Nocturne. They're thinking about going for this invade. They've come in at a weird angle. Are Steel and DFM going to back away? They are, but they're going to try and turn it around. Here's Seros. Are they going to fight this? I think they might.
Seros
Level 1s engage. Oh, Unifil's over the wall, throwing a fair amount of damage, bouncing bombs here. Sengoku Gaming actually taking a lot of damage, and I think this red buff is just going to completely reset. Yet there it is. Sengoku Gaming thinking about backing out, and they take big health bar chunks as a result of this.
They do, and actually Blank's using a lot of mana for this trade as well.
Yeah.
That does affect Karthus on his early clear.
Yeah, he's going to try and steal away some raptors or something, but he's not really got anything as yet.
No, but neither has Trundle as well. And as we saw, it's normally Steel that suffers when he has the early path which has been disrupted. Blank's still going to go for these Raptors, has himself the Talisman, and he's actually going to be leashed slightly by the Ziggs, but the camp's going to reset.
And that means he's only getting the one. It's just taking him so long. And with no vision in this sort of bush, I think Steel gets that. He'll lose the Raptors, and that's frustrating. But even so, he's going to get Pillar down on Blank, who's at level 1. He's got to think about flashing. He's going to use that smite, but is now in a serious amount of trouble. Might just die here. Pyrian's here. Does take a huge chunk of health bar, and Trundle will be able to clear up significantly healthier in this jungle at this point. I think that is probably advantage DFM, but it's pretty close to call.
Okay, but there's an extra camp been taken on the side of DFM's jungle. Blank is, however, going to be at such low mana, and he's already used his smite. Blue buff, he has managed to expertly use up the entirety of that patience bar, so won't use up much of his HP. He's not doing any of his auto cancels on Karthus though, which means that his mana will be relatively low on this clear.
Yeah, he is. It's the Q auto Q Q auto Q Q that you got to get so used to if you're playing Karthus. I've been trying it. It's been getting better, but it's just a little bit of getting used to sort of kiting and getting that roundabout. But for now, Blank just goes for the straight Qs. Has got his blue buff, and that will get him up. But it means as these Rift Scuttles or Scuttle Crabs rather, have spawned, they're up and about in the river, and Trundle's already there. May think about going down to the bottom to get both if he can.
I think he's probably going to go towards the top side of the jungle. He knows that Karthus is going to be super low.
Big trinket, and he's taking massive damage there. Ouch! That's a good hook, and Utipo's now in trouble with us. A Devour. Ignite goes down, but that's the end of that. As Ziggs does a fair amount of damage in this mid lane as well. Fear's going to proc as well onto Seros, takes a big damage trade in return. And actually, CS lead of about 10 to Yutori Miyashi on this Aphelios right now.
Yeah, and there's also a slight lead in the mid lane too, whereas it is going to be the advantage to Ebby in this top lane after all these trades come through.
It is, and of course that's what you get for Seros kind of leaving a lane to throw bouncing bombs at Blank rather than farming the wave. 10 CS a piece really for both the bot laner and the mid laner.
And actually, after all things said and done, both junglers going to end up stealing a camp from each other because
the
red
actually
buff...
in trouble again.
Sorry, I should really cut out when that stuff happens because we saw what happened last game when Ebby gets good trades in the top lane. So ends up being a kill. Come in for an attempt on top and cancel the back.
Just cancel the back. They're thinking about diving this. Nocturne's not here. Apperman has got flash. He's going to think they have to use it. He uses that knock up, but no one's taken aggro yet. So I think he might have used that, but later it's just gone. First blood over to Trundle. Once again, Steel and Ebby pairing up to be a pretty disgustingly powerful duo.
So the key interaction there is that Ebby faked an auto attack onto the Ornn, which was going to draw aggro, and actually he auto attacked the tower, meaning which Apperman, even though he got the Searing Charge onto 2 people, no turret shots were going their way, meaning that the kill did not come through for him.
Blank's in behind Seros. There's no fear yet. He's going to have to think about flashing here. Uses it, but he's into Blank. He's going to take a lot of damage. Has got the flash.
Good
Made to use it,
exhaust.
but the exhaust is there, and he's fine. Avoids all of the Skittles because he's just dancing around. The Darksbringer misses as well. Seros, fancy feat.
But either way, Dark Harvest stack, it's gained for Blank, and it's the exhaust down for the mid laner as well, meaning that when the level 6 comes through for Pyrion, there's no exhaust, there's an ignite, and it will mean that probably Seros will need to back very soon as well to keep himself topped up on HP.
Steel's here, thinking about coming forwards a little bit. Pyrion now taking a little bit of a chunk from the minefield, and that's about it.
He does have priority over here. Pyrion gets Poland.
Yeah, he's got that pillar, takes a bit of damage, has got the fear proc, he's going to use it. Just get to walk away out of that. Really useful ability, that.
It's pretty okay. He ends up actually getting a good amount of chunk onto Pyrion there just before. This next wave would have given him level 6, I believe. It might have, actually, no, it's the next cannon wave which would have given him that, I believe. Teleporting from Ebby into the top side on the head. Apperman had already used his to get back after that turret dive had removed him from the map.
He has, and it's a Phage in for Ebby as well, who's feeling pretty confident, has got that level up again in this top lane. Nocturne is roaming down, has got level 6. Steel is around, but it would probably be a 4v5. Check out the Requiem, that's not quite there for Blank. He's got to be inches away, you think. He's just going to continue farming.
Aggroing the dragon there to make sure that Pyrion takes a chunk as well.
Yeah, and that's a fair amount of damage out. They're going to try and think about starting this dragon here, but DFM are around. Blank has got that level up on Steel, though, as that Scuttle Crab has found its way into an unusual position. Does reset, though, and that's fine. Gang spits it out and throws it towards Steel, goes, here you go, buddy. Yeah, just for you.
The real annoying composition is Syndra Tarmkench because just Scuttle Crabs never get to go anywhere.
No, that's very true. Oh, Syndra Tarm, I just hadn't thought about that. But the invade potential of blue buffs.
Well, it's actually it's actually one of the reasons why Syndra is played jungle very occasionally. I actually had to cast a game of that.
You were telling me about that.
Yeah, no. So I cast some of the stuff in the University League in the UK, and I had to cast the Syndra jungle, which I'd never seen before. I had to just make up things on the fly. Yes, the jungle Syndra does this. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I just had no idea.
It is now up to about a 15-odd CS lead in that bot lane right now. I think Yutori Meshi is playing this Aphelios really well. And, of course, Utapar not doing awfully on the Syndra with some of the stuns and stuff, but is out to the CS deficit, which is a good thing for Sengoku Gaming, who are still down about 400 gold, as Ebby just forcing Blank to back in an awkward space.
There are just so many things you have to be aware of as the Syndra in this lane. There's the Gravitum. You don't have a cleanse this game like you did on the Aphelios last game.
Another Fear proc doesn't land, though, because it's a good satchel charge. And actually gets a chunk onto Pyrion doing it. That's a nice double 2-for-1. Not a lot of damage, but I appreciate the interaction.
Right. So we see that Pyrion has got the Tiamat early. Does mean there's a lot of wave clear. Another one of those picks, which I like. I'm like, oh, do I really know what I'm talking about? In the first couple of games of Nocturne mid that we saw this split. Now we're relatively okay with that. There's a lot of wave clear, which you do get very early on from that, and the Tiamat just helps that even more. Helps you shove and roam, even though he doesn't have the priority right now. He has his ultimate and will be looking for something.
Yeah, he's taking a bit of damage here, but there is the proc from the Tiamat. Here comes Ebby, though. Thinking Flashing God's got it. There's no spell shield. Here comes the Mega Inferno Bond. It's just Ebby picking up. Paranoia comes down, but it's nothing. But that's a big kill on Pyrion. Picks it up with the Ignite, actually, as Utapon takes damage from that. But there's a Devour, I think, available. Is not used. They don't go into it. Here comes the Sentinel. And that's all of that done. Check out the Utapon has got level 6 first, but here is Yutori Miyashi picking it up as well. Nice trade back onto Ebby, but Pyrion did go down and burnt his summoners for the trouble as well.
It burns his summoners, but it buys a lot of time for Apperman. He won't be in as such deep of a hole as he was in Game 2. Able to build himself up to the Balmy Cinder, doesn't have a CS deficit, even gets himself a plate in the top lane for his troubles. The bot lane skirmish was never going to go any further than that while there was a Karthus ult available too. Even though the jungle item isn't completed from Blank, having the Dark Harvest available at, now I think it's an extra 2 stacks now. I think he got...
he did get one onto...
He got one onto Saros very early on, and then he got another one there with the kill. Means that that ultimate will still be chunking out pretty hard in this early game.
Yeah, and Pyrion clearing out some wards. You may have noticed that Sengoku Gaming do like their sweepers. They've got 3 on the board already.
Maybe we should hire them as house cleaners.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, sweepers. Or maybe actually what they don't want to play is competitive Minesweeper. That's what they really want to be. That's the second esport that Sengoku Gaming are really invested in.
Sengoku now expanding into Minesweeper. And
It's an expanding industry. It's coming back. Retro gaming.
Very explosive.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. As the Rift Herald is spawned, and guess where Sengoku Gaming are?
There are it's 8 to 10 minutes. It's Herald time.
It feels a bit like Clutch Gaming of yesteryear, as DFM here actually to contest. Bot lane is here, so is everybody else. It's a 5-man stack around this Herald, and the fight may well continue. There are no ultimates available for the Nocturne, and that's actually about it. Everything else is available. The Herald is not reset. The Patience bar is getting precipitously low, though, as Ebby has found his way around, and finally the Herald resets, and DFM may feel happy to have let that go, as Utapon shoves in the mid lane, and that's a nice free shove for them.
So the sad thing for Sengoku here is that obviously they don't have the Paranoia available, so they don't have the ability to really start going for these hard engage plays, which they might have looked for around that Herald. They're using the fact that both the Ziggs and the Syndra are in mid lane to try and restart this Herald, though. This could still go on for quite some time. The Ziggs isn't here for poke just yet.
But they're going to be pretty close. The Wall of Pain comes down.
Paranoia's here. Paranoia's up.
Paranoia is up. They've waited, but Blank takes a huge trade at the end of that, and that's going to hurt. He is a Karthus, of course, and does have Death Defied if he wants to go really balls to the wall and use his Death passive, but you've got to feel otherwise that they're not going to. DFM in command currently around this Rift Tower. It's on about 2,000 HP. They're pulling it further their way. Ebby's over the wall, and it is secure. The Call of the Forge God does come down. They're just going to try and deny it away. Paranoia comes in. They're going in onto Ziggs.
That's a lot of
damage. He's just going to get popped, but Apperman now in a lot of trouble. The Syndra ult's going to come through. Pyrion's in the mid-back of nowhere, and I think he goes down into 1-for-1, and the Rift Herald picked up for DFM.
So 1-for-1, a lot of summoners used by DFM actually quickly checking down on their side. There's a flash from Steel. There's both summoners from Saros. Flash and then the exhaust from the bot lane of DFM as well. It was a hard engage from Sengoku, looking for a little bit more than they got. I think the Call of the Forge God not really making as
Rift
much
Herald
of an impact
summoned.
as they would have liked. Herald summoned in the mid lane. It won't get them the entire turret, I don't think, but it will get them another 2 plays going onto Utapon.
He will do, and that's Syndra looking significantly happier now. But of course, Utorimiyashi is still doing very well in this top side, picking up his own plate score.
Well, dude, so this Utorimiyashi, once again, a lot of gold funneled onto him, gone for the early boots, giving him a bit more kiting potential and ability to push in waves with the attack speed. Whereas Utapon obviously doesn't build any of those AD items. I'm like, oh, normally I compare it to what the other AD carry is building.
Of course, you've got to remember that Saros has that satchel, so if he ever shoves in, he just throws one down, and that turret is gone. There is no way to stop that.
Will be indeed.
He's just going to walk forward. There it is, just gone.
So, and that's the first turret going over to Saros. Gets himself a plate as well. Gets him up to actually only gold parity with Pyrion after the kills, and everything else comes in from the Nocturne mid. So not the largest advantage that we normally expect from a satchel first tower.
No, but that's what you get for going on. And actually, Pyrion's picked up a lot of CS early on. There's a lot of pressure that's come in from Blank, and the early engagements with the Fear have done a pretty good job of forcing Saros to be a little bit more respectful than he normally is on that Ziggs.
So the problem about Ziggs' early game is that his Q cooldown is actually quite long.
Apperman's potentially in trouble here as Saros is around. That's a decent attempt on the satchel charge. Going to try and use that stun. Not quite in range. I think Utapon actually fluffed that.
I'll have to go back and watch that maybe. So Saros with the satchel charge actually just bumping Apperman slightly further away. Might have ended up being the extra distance there, which made the difference.
Dominus burned by Ebby to make sure he can clean this wave up, but I think that means there will be a turret going over the way of Utorimiyashi in this top side.
It does, but it will be traded for the bot lane as 3 people pile up from DFM. Have the satchel, as you've been saying this game. That is one of the big points about Ziggs in the pro game. It does mean you can rotate very quickly and start demolishing a lot of these structures. Ziggs Tristan is my favorite one for that, by the way.
Yes.
Bomb into bomb into bomb. There is no structures. So many demolitionists.
And a
TFT!
second Drake goes over to DFM as well. They're winning this neutral objective trade this time around. Gold will continue to be in their favor post that turret as well, but only by about 600, 700 gold.
And do you know the reason why that is, even though there's so many plates going the way of DFM? There's a huge CS lead on Utomi.
Yeah, there really is.
That's like a 40 CS lead.
It's a 20 in the mid lane as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of expected a little bit from the Nocturne against these kind of control mage picks, which can't trade super hard.
Yes.
Because Ziggs takes a while to come online. He's got the GLP now.
Double GLP.
There's a double GLP built up, which is important. There's a lot of people that DFM want to start cutting away from, and that slow from the active ability of the GLP will help a long way with that. But Nocturne in the early game from the mid lane just has there's very few ways you can really force him off the wave. He heals up from his passive cleave auto as well, which means that even your poke trades mean less, and he just gets priority over priority.
Yeah, and we've got to give massive credit to Yutaro Miyashi. Like, I don't know the Syndra Felios matchup, so I don't know if it's a hard one for Syndra.
Syndra can like 1v2 the lane eventually.
But early on, NT and Yutaro Miyashi have played that lane very well, and they've got Yutaro Miyashi up to an Infinity Edge, is looking pretty strong. Syndra, though, has got her first item complete, so isn't at a point where she's weak per se, but the gold lead, at least onto this Aphelios, who does have expensive items, is good news for Sengoku Gaming.
Yeah, it is indeed. Whereas we see that Pyrion has picked up the first item in the Duskblade, not going towards the Umbral Glaive or any of kind of the vision removal, wants to go for the straight up burst, which in fairness, if he's going to go for the super hard engages like we saw around the Herald, will go a long way. Pyrion's actually going to back off this top lane turret, and Saros will pick up another, satchel kill on a tower, you have to think.
Yeah, and that's what they're just going to do. Knock it down. Pop. There we go. You saw the little symbol turn up above that tower before it was summarily destroyed. Appleman's going to shove on the bot side, but he's significantly slower at taking these towers. And the mid lane will continue to stand for DFM, which is a big deal. It's 3-1 in the towers right now.
Who would win? A godlike entity of forging and hammers, or one bomb boy?
The bomb boy, clearly.
The
It actually takes a lot. We need to be careful how we phrase that, actually, thinking about that. And we're going to move on as this top lane tier 2 stays up for now.
Okay, sure, whatever. Yeah, so good trade on Pyrion, ends up burning the flash of the Nocturne there. Has enough wave clear to clear away the wave at the turret and keep himself relatively topped up with his corrupting potion as well. Saros not letting up on the push just yet, though.
No, and I can see what this person is going to go in, but Steel's here. Carthadol's coming down, but the exhaust is here. And he's got a Zhonya's to keep himself alive, and now Pyrion's in trouble. He's got no flash, and that just means that Steel picks it up and just goes too deep. You see the idea.
That is not checking the inventory. That was a stopwatch, which you very clearly saw. You just saw him on screen. You just saw Steel on screen. That is an overconfidence play from Pyrion.
And he's going straight towards this Zhonya's second, and I cannot blame the Ziggs, because you know he's going to be the target of all these dives.
He is, absolutely, and that means that with the next Herald coming up in 30 seconds, they're not going to have the vision on the top side because Pyrion is dead. They also won't have his ultimate available.
Yeah, and I think also I've got to credit Saros for going for the double door space. Well, just for the extra HP early makes a lot of sense if he knows he's going to be a target.
There's something to that. That's more for like the laning kind of mana and all that kind of stuff, particularly because you're getting shoved into. You might need an extra bit of that mana to start really coming in with a lot of your wave clear and stuff. Plus, he was chunked out early as well by Blank coming in. So that's normally when you pick it up when you don't have the gold to pick up everything that you wanted on your first back.
Second Herald now started by DFM as Ebby's being chased by Blank, but that's about it. It means Sengoku Gaming do get some wards, and they're going to try and find his way on Ebby, who stepped forwards back again. Not sure about that one. It's a decent play. Ebby now has popped the dominance, has used the flash. He's going to try and turn around. Utapod is here, does a lot of damage with the unleashed power, gets a 1-for-1.
Does get a 1-for-1. They're still going for it, though.
Well, they are thinking about it. He's got flash, so Utapod may need to burn it. Thinking about it, Pyrion can't get the Fear Tether and does get out.
So, kill over to the Syndra.
Yeah, Ebby stepped forward. I thought he'd overstepped, and he kind of did, but Utapod was there to turn it around as well.
I mean, that was a pretty big overstep. He ends up getting hooked by NC, flashing away, but the flash was not enough to really carry him out of harm's way. It is luckily a 1-for-1, like you were saying. Blank going down. Every time Karthus dies, you're like, can't go and farm my jungle right now, which is what you would have done after that play. That's important, right? Because he's scaling and he's looking to try and get up into the later phases of this game with a healthy amount of gold in pocket. He actually doesn't have himself an XP or he does have a camp lead onto the Trundle, but not
massive.
Not massive, right? A lot of that might be due to the early game. The level 1, if you remember, was pretty scuffed. That's the word we'll use.
We don't have a pro view to go and check out, but I have got to question a little bit how much Blank knows about the Karthus jungle. Where when we saw that initial no auto spacing on the or auto cancelling.
Well, he was on the blue buff.
On the blue buff, which even then you still see it on that.
Well,
so.
he had enough mana to finish the blue buff and then use the mana regen from that. He wasn't going for a full clear here, not for a half clear.
Okay, so maybe I'm being unfair.
I'm not a Karthus jungle expert. I've watched enough T1 to see people fail on it, but you know how it works. So we have an Infernal Dragon on this Infernal Rift for DFM or Sengoku available. 2 dragons picked up by DFM thus far, so this would be sole point if DFM pick it up.
They've got a second Rift Herald as well to get some attempted pressure. That's a decent pillar in against Sengoku Gaming, and that's a big Mega Inferno Bomb as well, which does about half of Blank's health bar.
It does, and the Dark Passage actually doesn't end up shielding Blank there from the pop, so that poke might end up buying DFM a good route into this Dragon Pit, but with the Ziggs poke, this is going to be a very hard fight to win.
The Paranoia Blank once again down to half HP, the GLP lands as well. They're struggling to find their way in. They've waited out the Paranoia. That's no longer an option. Blank takes massive amounts of damage. He cannot stand near this poke.
Call of the Forge God is now available again, though.
Grief. Yeah, it is available, but I don't know whether Appleman's going to have a chance to use it because the GLP is used. They're actually going to try and use this Requiem to get onto Steel. Who takes massive amounts of damage. Shot down onto the Trundle. Well played, but the Rift Herald has summoned before he dies by Steel. That's an interesting choice, and that was a weird bit of visual. Like, Blank and Sengoku Gaming have taken so much damage, and it's going to continue to shove up. Herald's going to try and force down on this bot tier 2. Teleport back in the mid lane, and Ebby is here, has got HP, has got himself no ultimate though, and the dance around this dragon continues. Blank is very low, Ebby's in behind.
Damage.
Takes about and that second Mega Inferno Bomb is back up and forces a flash out of Yutori Miyashi.
It does, and Yutori...
Oh my days, that's a huge stun, but it's a decent hook back, but that's a massive Devourer as well that cancels out the Flay. There is the W active from Syndra that has to be flashed away from
Appleman's here.
He's teleported in behind, but he's now in a 1v4. I don't know whether he wants this. Has got Call of the Forge God, uses the Searing Charge, but Yoshi's just gone down. He stepped too far forwards, got exhausted, and tongue lashed to death. Pyrian is so in trouble, and Appleman kind of baited his team there a little bit, came around the back, tried to find a flank, and it was a nice idea to try and stop the Infernal stacking, but he still ends up with the loss there to Sengoku Gaming.
Yeah, the team. I think the team call there was we have to stop this Infernal Dragon. Steel is down if we win this fight. Maybe there's something in it in terms of pushing into the mid lane turret or something around that. The teleport's committed, but Seros is just doing so much work, zoning and poking out on this Ziggs. Utapon is there to follow up on all these kills as well. The double GLPs came in huge that fight. I can't wait to see this replay because there was a lot of work being done in the backline there.
That was feeling more like Legends of Runeterra with counter into counter into counter coming through in that fight. It's like I raised a Mega Infernal Bomb into a Paranoia Karthus Requiem, into a teleport, into a Rift Herald.
I've been really thinking, because obviously, like, so when LS casts and stuff, like, some of the people that use the MTG references on cast will say, like, oh, this is a mono red comp. And that's very obvious to say. It's like, this is completely aggro early game, all this other stuff. I'm like, what's actually a blue counter deck analogy in League of Legends? Maybe this is pretty close. You keep him at arm's length, you have a Tahm Kench, you have double GLP, you've got... okay, maybe you have to put a Karma in as well. Sure, okay, Production, who actually plays MTG, I don't know this stuff. But anyway, DFM are on the blue side of the blue team, and they have themselves a lot of blue items in inventory as well, so we're going to call it the blue comp.
We'll call it the blue comp. There's no blue Ezreal, though, so I don't know how blue it can really be. Dabba-dee-dabba-die. And Ebby forms up some Krugs, and DFM feeling pretty confident in this game. The gold lead's not massive, but the objective lead is huge.
It's crazy. With 3 dragons and soul point for an Infernal Soul, not even that Infernal Soul on a poke composition, which means that you do proc that soul so continuously. It would be very hard for Sengoku to really fight themselves out of that hole unless they get a crazy Elder Dragon after that fight. And at that point, you know, you're waiting on DFM to kind of like allow you into a position where you can even approach the Elder Dragon. So I don't even think that's going to be a thing. Enti's found out.
Yeah, he's going to take a lot of damage. Has got no flash, no stopwatch this time around, but nothing much lands in the end. Don't want to step too far forwards because the Sentinel turret's in the way.
This is such a hard game for Yutori Miyashi to walk up and start doing stuff. The range differential between him and the Syndra and the Ziggs, if it was just one of them, you can flash over the one skill shot or something like that, or use Thresh to catch them out. But then there's a Paranoia.
Thinking about going forwards, Call of the Forge God here as well. The Calibrum ult does hit from the Moonlight Vigil. Still takes a massive amount of damage, but he's still alive. He's got that Subjugate that's keeping him alive. Does survive. There's a Requiem still available, but still enough HP that ultimate won't kill him.
Well, you had the Subjugate running, so the extra resists were there. They don't end up burning a summoner, but they do end up getting steel to reset. It's not going to buy them anything, though. That was very close, because there was a good... that the Call of the Forge God there ended up hitting 3 people, slowing them all. Then the Assault came through. I think if that was a Gravitum, you get this huge, like, almost orbital bombardment combo, where because the next CC will proc a Brittle proc, means that you can just lock them all in place, proc that Brittle, the second part of the Call of the Forge God comes through. Again, it's just huge amounts of damage, because Aphelios has scaled pretty well on that. Gravitum proc as well. Unfortunately, it was the Calibrum, like you were saying, only the extra auto attacks coming through, and it didn't really end up sticking enough damage on there.
No, but of course it's not over for Sengoku Gaming yet. Yes, they will be in serious trouble if that Infernum Soul, or Infernal Soul rather, not Infernum Soul. That's just Yutori Mayashi and the Aphelios. But Infernal Soul goes over DFM, then they're in serious trouble. But Ornus at level 13 is not far away from 14. There is massive CS leads for the Karthus and the Aphelios. If they can stall, if they can prevent the Infernal Soul going over, there is massive amounts of damage that can still be bought and scaled into by Sengoku Gaming.
For sure, right? There's an Infinity Edge on the side of the Aphelios. We saw how much damage that has done in the past. It does mean that the scaling will be there from Yutori Mashi, but he has to get onto the targets in the first place.
He's going in on Appleman, but there's a fair amount of damage, or rather, damage mitigation, I think that's probably the better way of putting it, for Appleman, which means that for all Ebby's slick combos, they don't do all that much right now.
Tabby, Forge Fire Cape, and then the Missile Mask upgrade as well. There's a lot of tank stats here on the Ornn. He's pretty ready to start tanking for the team. And I think that, I mean, I said earlier into the game, maybe there's a point where damage runs out for DFM. I think against Afferman that's true, but maybe against Yutori Miyashi that's not the case. I think that once he gets hit by a minefield or by a GLP, Aphelios finds it very hard to fight in these fights if it is kind of front to back, one-dimensional. Blank's just gonna...
And you can only buy so much magic resist, right? You can only buy... He's got the Hex Drinker, and that's good news, but it's not... It's not like a full Spirit Visage or something you can buy. So he's still got room to get chunked through.
So NT looks like he's going towards the Stone Plate. I would really like to see an Aegis out of him. I'd actually like to see one out of Afferman. I think that if you get an Aegis in this comp, maybe you can...
Oh, here comes the Abyssal Voyage, though, and it's going to be the Paranoia to try and escape by Pyrian, but I think he's just going to get stuck in places. A Lantern! Flash out from Pyrian.
Thresh Express.
The Thresh Express was there, does get him out, but he has had to burn that flash again.
I love how I'm just like, I get so absorbed into like my nerdy points. Like, oh, if he gets an Aegis on the Ornn, which is a really good item from blah, 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 blah. A fight happens, and it's happening again!
But you're seeing NT having a flash this time, and there will be no Paranoia, no flash available for Pyrian, as this Infernal Soul is about to spawn, potentially, for DFM.
And no Paranoia again.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. It's going to be pretty tricky, and you said that DFM may run out of damage, but I don't think that's going to be the case right now, as Blank has to flash out as well. DFM in very commanding position, but Appleman's found a good flank. The Call of the Forge God is huge onto Utapon, but he is alive and well for now, only caught the one person. Now Appleman's stuck in the middle of nowhere.
He's very tanky.
He is very tanky, but he's taking a fair amount of damage. That's a Gravitum ult. It will go onto Utapon, who's now at half HP, flashing onto Utapon, but he's got a stopwatch. He's going to use it. He does survive the wreck.
Yutori
Miyashi is here to hook onto Gang, but he's alive. Yutori Miyashi gets flashed on, has to cleanse and flash over the wall, but now he's in trouble. Has got that ult. And here is tanking in the front line, has had to use the stopwatch himself. Seros off to the side, throwing all the bombs, and Seros may have to find his way over the back of this wall. Does Satchel charge out, and I think we're going to see some resets, because this isn't over yet. Ebby clears out that control ward, and we're not about done yet.
We are, that's very close to the Mega Inferno Bomb steal there. There was a 2-level advantage for Blank there in the jungle matchup, meaning that Smite probably was going to go his way. Sengoku end up once again, not for the first time this split, problem-solving their way to one of these important objective fights. Yutori Miyashi had a lot of damage coming through there, and Appleman, as I said, does have a lot of those tank stats on that Ornn, meant that he was just immovable in that front line.
Really is, and it's going to be tricky because that was well played. They stopped the Infernal Soul coming over, but no kills actually went over. Let's look at the replay. So what happened?
So we saw that there was no Paranoia, so DFM wanted to position quite aggressively. Apperman, though, gets into the bot lane and has a Call of the Forge God across the team. And he's kind of sat here in the front line once again. Then they commit their other kind of big team fighting ult in the Karthus, but it doesn't end up doing all the damage in terms of finishing off a kill. It's just to chunk out at the start of the fight. Yutori Miyashi uses the Blast Plan to get over the wall, but even then, he's finding it hard to stick around in these fights still. It's literally just Apperman there tanking up the lion's share of everything.
And that is what it is for now, as we're going to see what's going on as the fact that double Zonya's in is a big deal for Saros and Utapon.
Yeah, it's
because
really
it means that the big wombo combo is so much harder to land for Sengoku Gaming.
Yeah, but particularly in this
Here we
kind
go
of-
again, Abyssal Voyage. Period has no flash, remember. Teleport is now burned. There comes the pillar. The spell shield isn't popped by that,
Blank's
though.
here.
Blank is here. They're going to use the Concord, but it's going to be a 3v4 as this teleport comes in. The Devourer is used. Paranoia burnt as well. Blank's around. The Subjugate's down onto all. He's significantly less tanky for now, but it's 5v4 because Utapon isn't here. It's going to come through, but Blank just goes dive.
Graviton?
Defied ult is gone. The around period is here. Graviton was burned. Death Defied is about to fade out. Couple last Skittles do come down, but it's not enough, and that is a 1 for no. And no jungler by the buy as the Baron is on the table.
It is. It's only a 1k gold lead to DFM, but they're not playing like it. They are definitely playing with a lot of poise here and getting a lot of damage down.
Period takes massive. He's going so far forward. Just takes huge amounts of damage. He's just massively in trouble. Appleman gets stunned, but he's very tanky. It's going to get the Conqueror stock though, stacked though as Ebby comes through. Unleash Power is there, and I think Appleman finally falls down. Utapon picks that one up, and now DFM in serious trouble. As Steel takes huge amount of damage. As the Sentinel, surprisingly tanky. Still thought he could just delete that, and Yutori proves him very swiftly
However,
wrong.
so the problem with this play now is that Blank manages to survive. Well, Blank manages to respawn after his initial death, and it means the Baron is no longer on the cards. It is a death for Apperman, but it does mean that DFM don't get any large objective leads out of this.
Yeah, and the Molten Edge from the Ornn upgrade is in for this Aphelios. Is very strong with a Maw of Malmortius on top of that as well. We talked about the very heavy AP damage from the side of DFM, and it is very serious between the 3 items completed for both of those carries. They're going to go towards dual Void Staffs by the looks as well. Complete mirror images pretty much right now.
It could also be dual Morel guns.
That's true.
Which
I don't know about that.
So, I think in this game where I think it's okay if you're trying to fight over the Infernal Soul and then the Baron as well. A lot of big objectives. And the immediate HP on top of the armor that you've already got, which gives you more effective HP, does mean that you're more likely to survive being dived on by Utorimiyashi, by Pyrion and then Utorimiyashi's ult as well. So I think if they go back and reset right now and do it, it's a good buy. If you're going to do it after those fights, well, maybe you could have scaled up into a better item for your next item and built towards something like a Void Staff,
and Void Staff is completed by Utapon,
Okay,
so that
good.
is in, and that's a pretty big deal. That's
huge.
going to be
Huge.
a lot of death threats.
just
Onto
TP back in as
Utomi
well.
once again, actually.
Pillar.
There's the use of the blue trinket to get on top of that. That's a hook onto Steel. It's the end of that, and the fight continues. Infernal Soul once more on the table in just under a minute. Keep your eyes on that.
And
Could
DFM
be
are
a
managing to get some
big
vision
deal.
around here, which is big. They managed to set up vision for this first fight.
Yeah, Paranoia will be available. Requiem will also be available. This could be a swan song for Sengoku Gaming, though, if they lose this Infernal Soul. They have got items. There is damage available, but Pyrion has got to find a better Paranoia. Utorimayashi, with his summoners, has got to put out serious damage. Oh my days, that's huge amount of damage, and that's a massive a Mega Inferno Bomb as Blank goes down as Ebby finds his way into the backline. Utorimayashi is going to have to force out that stopwatch from Ebby. The Requiem is massive, and actually Ebby goes down in return. It's a 1-for-1 right now. Gang gets hooked. He's in trouble. He's about to go down, but he's got thick skin and uses it to the best of his ability. But Utorimayashi is putting out disgusting levels of damage. Saros actually very shy on mana, too.
Yeah, Utorimayashi actually had to flash away at the end of that little conflict there. This is not over just yet, though.
Hook does miss, but remember, there's no teleports available. So going forwards now, our DFM get a pillar onto Apperman for a slow, but that's about it. Going to continue to chase, though. They miss out on the stun because the Searing Charge was well timed by Apperman.
Right, okay, so Dragon still isn't dead. It's still available, and Blank's going to be up very, very shortly. He doesn't have his ultimate, but he will be running like the wind down to that Dragon if he can make it there in time. DFM going to head towards it right now, though.
Yeah, they are. They're going to try and stop it, or start it, rather. They're going to be very quick. Blank's not there, won't be there for another 20-odd seconds. So DFM feel they have the position. They've got a 4v4 right now, but Utorimayashi is at full health, has not got Moonlight Vigil right now. But DFM also shy of a couple key ults, and Seros is still precipitously low on that mana bar. TFM still
Right,
thinking about
trying to go
going
for a big play here, though. He's been seen.
He's taking a massive amount of damage as well, and Ebby's actually here again. Steel takes a huge, uses the subject. Steel is it! Infernum Soul is here! And that means there's huge damage coming through, but the team fight continued. Ebby's on one side, but Pyrion, his solo has to flash away from the bouncing bomb. They're going to try and get out, and it's a 1-for-none trade for Sengoku Gaming, but they lose the Infernal Soul.
They do, and they lose out on it with, I believe, actually an advantage on the smite for Blank, so Steel holding his nerve, getting the huge steal there.
Hero play.
It's hero play, right? That might end up sealing out game 3 for them, and in these best of 5, sometimes it is about mental fortitude, and that's definitely one of those plays which can knock or build your confidence.
Yeah, it really can. And I've also got to call out, there's only been one upgraded Ornn item thus far. No one else has built items in inventory to get upgraded yet.
Yeah, so Pyrion, I think, had to go for the Edge of Night second. He went for the Dustblade for the initial burst there as well. I would, like I said, like to see a. This is Zonya's now available on Blank, by the way. But I would like to see.
Cool.
I'd like to see an Aegis out of someone like NT. That is an upgradable item. A Redemption would also be an okay item to get as well. But he's gone towards the Stone Plate for more of the immediate tankiness on that Thresh. But like you said, it does end up meaning you don't get as many upgrades immediately available to you.
Yeah, and it is still close in the gold lead. Sengoku Gaming do have a world in which they can win, because look at that. Yutorimi actually has himself a Bloodthirster.
Yeah, well, what that means is that if he gets access to a minion wave now, he's going to be full HP.
Yeah.
Because if you ever get Severum, he's got the Hurricane as well. He heals up very, very quickly on this Aphelios.
Mid tower still standing for DFM, doing their best to continue these pushes. And
This is Ziggs, baby.
this is what it is, and it's also Syndra. They do have a fair amount of wave control as Sengoku Gaming decide to set up around this Baron. That's looking like their next battleground of choice. Ultimates are available across the board. They're all going to be used, you feel, in a bit of a climactic team fight if we're not careful.
And in the midst of all this, even though he's finding it hard to put down damage in team fights, Yutori Miyashi has 4 kills, almost a Flame Horizon 100 CS lead over Utapon, and has the Ornn upgrade as well, like we've talked about before. If he ever gets free time to auto-attack onto the backline, the team fight is over, and it might be the game with it, regardless of the Infernal Soul.
Is he ever going to be given that option, though?
That's
It's the
a good
real
question.
question. And Ebby's actually just going to try and take down this turret with a Demolish.
Yeah.
Is taken, goes on to Appleman for some trade, has got the GA and a bit of damage, but it's kind of traded strictly back. Call of the Forge Guard not used. I thought that was what it was. It was actually just a Duskbringer. Very different ability. And DFM fighting for vision control in this red side jungle.
They're fighting for it, and they're definitely winning the vision war as they push in for mid-priority as
Oh,
well.
Pillar comes in. Blank stuck in the middle of nowhere. Has got a lantern, though, because Thresh is a thing. And gets to pull out.
Steel has been catching Blank and NT out a lot with these pillars, and it sets up so well for the Mega Inferno Bomb. Seros putting out a lot of damage throughout this game. We saw it with some of the more heavy CC, more like hard CC earlier in the split from them. They played it with the Kiana before, alongside the Aphelios with the Gravitamol. This game, they don't have as much a long-range CC to really commit to stuff like that, but the pillar has proved worthwhile nonetheless, particularly when there's no mobility on a lot of the important targets of Sengoku.
They're going for the Baron, though, and they are going to be running. Steel and DFM are not around at the minute. It's going down very fast.
This thing!
It's going to be pretty quick. Steel is here, but remember, he's got no flash. He used it in the last one. Sengoku Gaming have got it. But they're going away because that Inferno Bomb was huge. Blank now in trouble. Has used the stopwatch, but he's kind of stuck. Ebby doing lots of damage to Blank is dead, but Death Defied is on. NT's a goal. Perion's gone. That's a double kill for this Renekton. Appleman now in the middle of the area. Yutori Miyashi hasn't got his flash up yet. It's so close to being up, but he's still going to go down. Just about shut down for this Syndra. Appleman, the last man surviving, but here comes Ebby. Doesn't get to stop the empowered recall. 4 for none, but Baron secured. It's at least off the table.
I think if Gang doesn't exhaust Yutori Miyashi there, I think he kills like 3 people. Huge plays coming out there. Aphelios was stuck in the pit and there was a minefield in front of it, so really no way to safety for Yutori Miyashi, who was desperately trying to turn around that team fight after the initial engage went to DFM's advantage.
But they're going to get an inhibitor
This
there. And
might
DFM,
even
I
be
think,
it.
you're going to try and end it. There's still some death timers, but
No,
Baron minions
okay.
and some respawns mean it's probably a risk they're going to get out of here.
Ooh, okay, right. So it does mean that there's a -2k power lead, for
That's a rough one.
Sengoku. That's not so great. They absolutely slaughter this Baron, and the hook lands onto Steel, means that he can't get in for the steal himself. But Blank takes so much damage on the front end of this, he's never really going to put out significant damage throughout the length of the team fight.
Heavy, man.
Yeah, this Renekton is really scary, and the Lantern had already been used with the side of Sengoku, leaving Yutomiyashi. It's kind of the wilds here, and I'm trying to see if the exhaust actually went through at that point, if it was slightly earlier. But anyway, Yutapon kind of finishes off the Aphelios there, and gets himself up to 4-0-2, not even dying on that Syndra, even though the CS has gone the way of Yutomiyashi.
And it looks like Ziggs might be going towards potentially a Leandri's last item to try and help with some of the tankiness and some continual burn. Is he not got a voice staff? I thought he already had the voice staff to complete the Morello. I apologize. Voice staff would make a lot more sense. For some reason, I thought he already had that item.
We talked about it a bit earlier.
Yeah, we did. Of course we did. Syndra, though, is now at full build with her items right now, unless she decides to go towards... Actually, she's not quite at full build.
No,
I think
she's got an Amp
towards... She's probably going towards... What would she go towards?
She might go towards an Leandri's.
I could also see potentially would a Banshee's Veil be an option there as well?
So already at 40% CDR, and also not necessarily needing the spell shield because it's not against a
and it's got and there's a Tom Kench as well.
And there's Tom Kench, so there's plenty of reasons to not go for that.
So the actual answer is there's a lot of reasons not to go for Banshee's Veil, go for the Leandri's versus the tanky people. It was my initial thought. I was trying to think if there was a reason for the other way, and my analyst tells me, yeah, no, don't do that. As here comes the Paranoia and the Call of the Forge God. Ebby does a really good job of stunning. That means that Call of the Forge God is just a call, and the Forge God goes running the other direction as Ebby slices his way back in. Mega Inferno Bomb is another huge one. Yutomiyashi about to go down. Ebby finds his way to the backline again. Pyrion has got a GA, but it's popped. Requiem is here, but alas, all it does is spell the defeat of Sengoku Gaming. 3 people dead already. The swan song is sung. The Requiem is just that for Sengoku Gaming in this game 3. Appaman is here. He tried to find his way to a minion wave. NT's like, yeah, I could do something to this wave, maybe. Somebody stop these people. And he does eventually fall down, stone plate or not. Game 3 looking like it's going to come to a close here. Waves being pushed in. Death timers are still pretty long. There is super minions in the base. Appaman's going to try his best.
He is very tanky. That is 10,000 HP on the Ornn.
Oh my days. He still goes down at the end to an unleashed power. Cuts through the god of Ornn, and he's dead. 18-6 in the kills. Infernal Soul. Baron not required. DFM come out to a lead in this series. 2-1.
Coming out of game once more, we'll bring it back to Masked Swan. Game 3.
Wow. So DFM now have match point. That's big. DFM have now got match point. This is a game where, again, I think some sloppy team fighting from the side of Sengoku, and DFM just capitalized on multiple different accesses. Again, fighting very well around that dragon, so stealing it away, maybe? Oh, well, at least at that end with the Trundle. Really well played by Steel, living up to their namesake. Honestly, DFM looked just very solid throughout these last 2 games.
They did. And I think, particularly in this game, Sengoku didn't necessarily play with poise, and we definitely saw that from DFM. They were very happy to sit and wait for the poke to land rather than trying to rush the objective. So we've seen teams like CGA occasionally play like that, where they're just like, nah, let's just go for the objective. DFM, very happy to just kind of sit and wait around these dragons, wait for something to land. They did that, and they ended up buying themselves a lot of objectives in that game.
I also have to call out Pyrion a little bit. His Nocturne left a lot to be desired, went in a lot, didn't find a lot. There was that one dive onto his Ziggs with Stopwatch, which kind of raised a few eyebrows from us here on the cast. And while Yutomiyashi was putting out some pretty significant damage and did his very best to at least keep the health bars accountable from DFM, there were issues with the idea that this Paranoia Requiem combo was supposed to be an absolute nuke onto one target, and they just couldn't find it between the Zhonya's, the Distances, the Exhaust, the Devour, and that Nocturne came out a little bit toothless.
And just adding on one last point to that effect, is that if the Nocturne doesn't end up getting very far ahead in that game, we saw there was effectively no threat onto the backline. They had a Call of the Forge God. They tried to fight around that, but if you can't delete those 2 carries when they're trying to poke you out, then like your team comp doesn't function.
True. A nice little tidbit that I found out was the only other time Karthus has been played in the LJL was actually on the side of Axis facing off against DFM. And, well, now Karthus is still 0-2 now. You can't pick up a win with Karthus jungle. It's just not good in the LGL.
Only 2 games,
Yeah.
and they're both versus DFM. So you might have
Well,
think,
yeah.
okay, is Carthus bad or is DFM really good? There's a lot to read into.
I actually still think the Carthus did a fair amount of work.
Got
terms
caught
of
out a
damage.
lot by the
Got caught out a
pillar.
lot. Yeah, that wasn't great.
Back on the team fight
Maybe
junglers.
with maybe with another mid laner that could do a bit more consistent damage.
Oh, no, I think if Nocturne's ahead, it's fine.
Yeah.
It just Pyrion ended up dying a couple of times with his first couple of ultimates.
Yep.
We saw like Ebby diving onto him and getting the kill there as well. It just really shut down a lot of Pyrion's options.
And I kind of do want to praise Ebby, actually, is kind of my final point. I think his Renekton was really, really good. He found his way into a backline in the way that an Ornn and a Paranoia empowered Nocturne just couldn't.
It's
Particularly that last fight around the Baron was huge.
Yeah, it's been really impressive top fight from a lot of these players. A lot of people pulling out some clutch important moments. Well, that's when you need it for playoffs more than ever. We're going to go on a very short break, but we'll be right back with the rest of this series. Thank you so much for watching.